All right, so you're here because you want to know what in the world is going on with Bitcoin and crypto today.
Yeah, buckle up.
March 12, 2025. It's been wild, right?
Definitely a day for the books.
We've got a stack of articles here.
Oh, yeah?
Some pretty big headlines, and we're going to try to make sense of it all with help from our expert.
Well, let's see if we can do that.
You know, I think when I saw Bitcoin dip below 78,000 today, that was a big one for me.
4-month low?
A 4-month low, wow.
Yeah.
XRP fell below $2 for the first time since November.
Yeah.
And Barron's called it a brutal sell-off.
Yeah.
And then, things started bouncing back a bit, so.
Right. Well, crypto doesn't exist in a vacuum.
True.
We're seeing that global economic uncertainty, those trade tensions that are brewing right now.
Yeah.
It all plays a role.
So even though it feels like this separate digital world, my crypto portfolio is still tied to what's happening in the real economy.
Exactly. And that's why, one analyst that we're seeing here, Fakulmiya, he's really urging investors to proceed with caution right now. It's not just about the tech, it's about the bigger picture.
The bigger picture. Okay, so we've got that, but then we have these mixed signals coming from our sources, right? Fortune Crypto is saying that February's slowing inflation is good news for Bitcoin, and it helped fuel today's rebound. But then Kitco's technical analysis is showing a downtrend in the daily charts.
Right.
They're waving those bearish signals flags like crazy.
Well, slowing inflation, that matters because it could lead to the Fed cutting interest rates.
Oh, okay.
And that's where things get really interesting for Bitcoin.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
All right. So imagine you have $100 to invest.
Okay.
You can put it in a safe investment, like a government bond with a low interest rate, maybe 1%. Or you can take a chance on something a little bit riskier, like Bitcoin, hoping for, much higher return.
Gotcha.
So if the Fed cuts interest rates, those safe investments become even less appealing. So it makes those riskier assets comparatively more attractive.
So this Bitcoin rebound, could it actually have legs? It's not just a dead cat bounce.
It's possible, but we need to be cautious, right? This price action could just be a short-term reaction to the news. We need to see confirmation from other indicators before we can say for sure.
So we've got, global economics swirling around, but what about the big players? The whales of Wall Street blockchain.news is reporting huge outflows from Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs today. BlackRock, the iShares behemoth, was a major player in this shift.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
Well, these ETF outflows could indicate a couple of things,
Okay.
Some large institutional investors might be taking profits after a long bull run, or they could be rotating their holdings into altcoins, that they believe have, stronger growth potential.
Interesting.
So it's not necessarily, a rejection of Bitcoin itself.
So not a mass exodus, but maybe just a strategic shift.
Exactly. It's more nuanced than just saying institutional investors are losing faith. The high trading volumes that we're seeing also suggest that some investors are still actively buying and selling.
Okay, so hold on to your hats, folks, because this next article is a doozy.
Oh, boy.
CoinFoMedia is predicting that if the Fed cuts rates, Bitcoin could blast off to $200,000 by the end of 2025.
Wow.
They're quoting Jeff Kendrick from Standard Chartered, who believes lower yields on traditional investments will push people towards riskier assets like Bitcoin $200,000.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-catching prediction.
It is.
And while we've seen Bitcoin defy expectations in the past, it's important to understand the conditions needed for such a massive price surge.
Like what?
We'd need to see sustained institutional demand, a healthy global economy, and a stable regulatory landscape.
Okay, so a lot of things have to go right.
Exactly. And remember, unforeseen events like, sudden geopolitical crisis or a new pandemic, these could derail even the most optimistic scenarios.
It's true. You never know what's lurking around the corner. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about something a little closer to home. Bitcoin Magazine covered the Bitcoin for America Summit today.
I saw that.
And it sounds like things got pretty heated.
Yeah, well, this summit was particularly noteworthy because it brought together key figures like Senator Cynthia Lummis and Michael Saylor to make a strong case for the United States to become a leader in Bitcoin adoption.
Yeah, they were advocating for Bitcoin's strategic importance, even calling for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. What would that even look like?
Well, the details are still being debated.
Right.
But the idea is that the U.S. government would hold a reserve of Bitcoin similar to how it holds gold reserves.
No.
The proponents argue that this would strengthen the U.S.'s position in the global financial system and protect against potential economic threats.
Wow.
It's a bold idea, and it signifies how seriously some policymakers are taking Bitcoin.
So the U.S. potentially becoming a crypto superpower. Now, that's something I never thought I'd hear discussed in my lifetime.
It's a fascinating development,
It is.
and it raises a lot of questions.
So many.
How would such a reserve be managed? What are the potential risks and benefits? And how would it impact the global crypto landscape?
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this story as it unfolds.
For sure.
So far, we've covered quite a bit, from wild price swings and conflicting market signals to big institutional moves and even a glimpse into the future of Bitcoin in America. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, we've thrown a lot at you.
We have.
But it really highlights how dynamic and interconnected the crypto world is.
It does.
And it's only going to get more interesting from here.
Well, buckle up, listeners, because we're about to take an even deeper dive. We'll be right back after a quick break.
All right, see you soon.
Welcome back. So as we've seen, the crypto markets are a little bit of a frenzy today. You know, you've got those economic anxieties swirling around, trade tensions, inflation worries. Will they, won't they, with the Fed cutting rates, and it's all feeding into Bitcoin's volatility.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how these macro trends, play out in the crypto markets. It's like watching a real-time experiment in behavioral economics. Global uncertainty makes investors nervous. They start looking for safe havens or, places to park their cash. And depending on their outlook, Bitcoin can either, benefit or suffer.
And it's not just about the big picture stuff, right? Those massive ETF outflows that we talked about earlier, that's institutional money-making moves based on their analysis of these trends. Do you think they know something we don't?
Well, their actions definitely have a ripple effect. When big players like BlackRock start shifting their positions, it sends signals, and other investors pay attention. It can create, like a self-fulfilling prophecy where fear or confidence can spread like wildfire.
Which brings us back to that wild $200,000 Bitcoin prediction. I mean, on the one hand, it sounds crazy, but on the other, we've seen Bitcoin do some pretty crazy things. Before I admit, I'm a little tempted to throw all my savings into it just in case.
It's tempting, isn't it? There's definitely like a fear of missing out factor in crypto, But remember, predicting future price movements is notoriously difficult, even for the most experienced analysts. There's just so many variables at play, and a lot has to go right for that scenario to unfold.
Okay, so maybe not all my savings, but even if it doesn't hit $200,000, the fact that we're even having this conversation is pretty remarkable. Just a few years ago, Bitcoin was, this obscure, geeky thing. Now it's being discussed on Wall Street and debated in Congress.
Absolutely. We're seeing growing acceptance of crypto as a legitimate asset class.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that institutional investors are participating, that policymakers are grappling with regulation, all of this points to a shift in perception.
Speaking of that shift, let's circle back to that Bitcoin for America summit. This wasn't just some gathering of crypto enthusiasts in a basement. We had a U.S. senator and a major business leader advocating for Bitcoin.
It's a sign of how quickly things are changing, The summit really highlighted how the perception of Bitcoin is evolving, particularly in the United States. It's no longer being dismissed as, a speculative bubble or a tool for illicit activities. Now it's being seriously considered as a strategic asset, a potential driver of economic growth, and even, a tool for national security.
When I first heard about Bitcoin, I thought it was a joke. Now look at us discussing a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States. It's truly mind-blowing how far we've come.
It's a testament to the power of disruptive technology,
Yeah.
And it's not just the U.S. governments around the world are grappling with how to regulate and integrate cryptocurrencies into their financial systems.
Yeah.
We're seeing a spectrum of approaches from China's strict ban to El Salvador's, adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender.
Yeah, that El Salvador move was a real game changer. Do you think we'll see other countries follow suit?
It's certainly possible. It was a bold experiment, and the jury's still out on the long-term implications. But it put a spotlight on the potential of Bitcoin to disrupt traditional financial systems. Force people to start asking, what if a country actually embraces Bitcoin as a national currency?
Speaking of disruption, we've got another interesting development here. Reuters is reporting that Deutsche Börse, the German stock exchange operator, is launching crypto custody services for Bitcoin and Ether next month.
That's a significant move.
Oh.
Deutsche Börse is a major player in traditional finance, and their entry into the crypto space is, a huge vote of confidence. It could encourage other institutions to follow suit.
So instead of shying away from crypto, they're embracing it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're recognizing that their clients are interested in digital assets, and they want to provide a safe and regulated way to access them.
It's further evidence that the lines between traditional finance and crypto are blurring. We've been talking a lot about Bitcoin, but what about the rest of the crypto world? Are there any other interesting developments in the altcoin space that our listeners should be aware of?
That's a great question. While Bitcoin is often seen as, the bellwether of the crypto market, there's a whole ecosystem of other digital assets out there, each with its own, unique features and potential.
It's true. There's Ethereum with its smart contracts and, the whole world of decentralized applications. And then there are stable coins pegged to the US dollar. There's so much innovation happening.
Absolutely. We're seeing the rise of decentralized finance, DeFi, which is basically reinventing traditional financial services on the blockchain.
Yeah.
And then there are non-fungible tokens, NFTs, which are digital assets that represent ownership of unique items, like digital art or collectibles.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
So even though Bitcoin is the most dominant player right now, the future of crypto is likely to be much more diverse and multifaceted.
It's exactly. While it's important to understand Bitcoin's role, don't get so caught up in the price action that you miss out on all the other amazing things happening in the crypto space. It's a truly exciting time to be involved.
It is. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground today. We talked about Bitcoin's wild ride, the impact of global economics, the moves of institutional investors, the changing regulatory landscape, and even got a glimpse into the broader crypto ecosystem. Feels like we've gone through like a whole week's worth of crypto news just in this one deep dive.
It really highlights how fast-paced this space is and how much is always changing.
Yeah.
The key takeaway, I think, is that, while volatile, the crypto market is maturing and becoming increasingly integrated with the global financial system.
So what does all of this mean for our listener out there? They're trying to make sense of this whole crazy crypto landscape, maybe make some informed decisions about their own investments. What should they be paying attention to?
Well, first and foremost, don't just react to the headlines.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in, the hype or the fear, especially when you see, those dramatic price swings. Just take a deep breath, step back, and, look at the bigger picture.
That's easier said than done when you see, those red numbers flashing on your screen.
It is.
Any tips for, staying level-headed?
Well, informed decisions are always better than impulsive ones, right?
Yeah.
So instead of panicking, when you see a price drop, ask yourself, what's driving this? Is it a broader market trend? Is it, a specific piece of news, or is it just some random noise? Doing your research can really help you make more rational decisions.
So don't just follow the herd. Think for yourself.
Exactly.
And maybe keep some cash on the sidelines so you're ready to pounce, when those dip buying opportunities arise.
Right. Having a plan, having a strategy can really help you navigate the volatility. Of course, diversification is key. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right, because even though Bitcoin is the big dog, there's, a whole world of exciting projects out there. The altcoin space is full of potential, but also risk.
Absolutely. And the crypto space is constantly evolving. So staying informed is absolutely crucial. New projects are popping up all the time. Regulations are changing. It's a very dynamic landscape.
So it's not just about buying and holding. It's about staying engaged and informed. Kind of like what we're doing right now.
Precisely. Think of this deep dive as your, crash course in navigating the crypto world. You've got to be in it to win it, but you've also got to be smart about it.
Well said. All right, before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question inspired by that Deutsche Börse news. They're a big traditional financial player diving headfirst into crypto custody services. Do you think this trend of institutions getting involved will ultimately make the market more stable, or could it introduce new risks? That's something for all of us to ponder as the space continues to evolve. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and stay tuned for more as we explore the ever-changing world of crypto.
Please help support the channel by subscribing, liking, and commenting.